One of the requests that I get most often from attorneys is about networking. How do I network? Who do I network to? How can I use networking to grow my business? Particularly among young attorneys or attorneys who are establishing their own practice for the first time and never really had to do that. And a lot of attorneys are very comfortable when it comes to the law and when it comes to doing actual legal work, drafting documents, doing research, and so on. But when it comes to developing business through social means, a lot of them are not quite so comfortable. So I thought I'd devote this session to telling you what I know about networking and seeing if I can help you to do it effectively and use it in a business development sense. And I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff, some of which is in order and some of which is sort of random thoughts and tips that I've picked up over time. So I would urge you to take notes or to watch this again and get all the points down. So let's start out with why is networking so important to begin with? Well, Woody Allen once said famously that 80% of success in life is in showing up. And that's a good laugh line, but I also think that there's a real kernel of wisdom in there. The clients are not sitting in your waiting room. They're not presumably lined up outside your door waving their checkbooks. The clients, the potential clients, are out there somewhere. And in order to meet them and bond with them, in order to have them become your clients, you're going to have to go out there and meet them. Now, out there, the definition of out there will change for each of you depending on your practice area and your geographical locale and so on. But let's just accept the principle that it's tremendously important. As one of my colleagues said, as one of their rules of practice development is rule number one is suit up and show up. So we'll use that as our premise going forward in today's lesson, that it's very, very important for you to show up. Well, where should you show up? Let's start with that. It's you should show up where your potential clients might show up. For some of you, that's going to be an easy task because you have a defined practice niche, and we can use that as a basis of deciding where you should show up. For others of you, that's going to be more difficult. Let's take a couple of for instances. If you are an attorney, a business attorney, who has a specialized niche in doing legal work for car dealers, then you need to show up at the meeting of the statewide Car Dealers Association, or at the convention of Ford dealers, or wherever that might be. If you are an attorney who does divorce, then pretty much anybody can get a divorce, and pretty much anybody does at this point in our society. So your task is much more broad. You might show up anywhere and anywhere. It could be the local Chamber of Commerce meeting. It could be a local church group. It could be a meeting of the local Democratic Society. It really doesn't matter, because your clients could be found in any of those groups. But they're presumably local groups. So, as a general principle, avoid gatherings that involve your own kind, for the most part. When I was a young man, I was a newspaper reporter. And I was paid a nice compliment once by one of the editors, who said to me, "You know what I like about you, kid, is you don't have lunch with other reporters." What he meant by that was I was having lunch with cops, and I was having lunch with the local prosecutor, and I was having lunch with insurance investigators and politicians and people like that. I was having lunch with people who could give me stories or who could give me access, or who could give me a relationship that I could tap into in the future. I wasn't having lunch with other reporters where all we'd be doing is exchanging gossip and complaints. So I would say to you in general, now this is not an absolute rule and I'll tell you the exceptions, but in general, you want to go where your clients are, not where your fellow attorneys are. Now, there are exceptions to that. Obviously, if you go to the Bar Association meetings or you go to certain lawyer-type events, you will meet attorneys with whom you can develop relationships and perhaps a mutual referral relationship, or perhaps you can learn from them. So there's value in that. But in terms of your practice development, in terms of acquiring new clients, you want to go where your potential customers go. What are some of the rules when you get in there? Because one of them is, I can tell you one easy tip, and that is show up early. Show up, be the first one there. Why do I say that? Well, because when you're one of the first ones there, and it's an event, you got your name tag on, you go and you get a drink or something like that, whatever it is, and you're standing there, then the next few people in are going to come over and start talking to you. So right away, you're sort of part of a group. If you come late, then you walk in as an individual, and people have already grouped themselves in conversational circles, and now you've got to sort of stand around awkwardly and hope to break into one of them or be invited into one of them. So one of my tips is show up early to any sort of networking event. It goes without saying, well, perhaps it doesn't. So, let's talk about some of the basics. Look the part. Dress your image. Dress professionally if it's a professional event. Don't show casual if you're wanting to project an image of being casual with your business. I don't think you want that. So go in there looking like a professional. Now again, use your common sense. If it's a party at the yacht club and the dress is Hawaiian shirt, don't go in your business suit. But if you're going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting or an After 5 meeting or something like that, you want to look very good. People judge with their eyes. And whether or not they should, that's a moral question. I leave it alone. I can refer you back to one of my early lessons in this series on the importance of image. But people are not qualified to judge how good you are at what you do. They're going to judge by their eyes, by image, by what they can see. So I urge you to look as great as you are going in. What else? Obviously, bring a bunch of business cards. Have your business cards handy. There's no excuse for being caught without a business card. This is the way people exchange information about each other, and it's an important one. Also, to that end, have on your computer or in your office means to take the information off the business cards and enter them into a database. That database, as months and years go by, is going to become increasingly valuable to you because it has all these contacts in it. Let's see, what else we got here. Never say anything negative about anybody or anything. Okay, that might mean stifling certain opinions that you have, but that's fine. People don't value people's negative comments, and in fact, they look at you and say, well, what's he going to say about me when I'm not there? So, stay positive, stay upbeat. If you've got negative opinions about something, keep it to yourself. Don't sit around having your mouth full of munchies. Don't talk on the cell phone. Don't do all these other things that make you unavailable really for conversation. Have an elevator speech. What do you mean by the elevator speech? Most of you are familiar with this. This is the speech that you can give to somebody in an elevator when you've only got, a minute or 30 seconds or something between floors, and somebody asks you the question, what do you do? I would urge you to take that speech and to constantly be refining it downward into ever more simple discussions. Let me give you an example. People used to ask me, what do you do? And my elevator speech was something like, well, I own a marketing firm and we serve attorneys and financial advisors, and we do brochures and we do seminars and we do websites, and we just help them with all of their marketing, something like that. It wasn't very good and it wasn't very effective. And through the years, I've consistently made it shorter and simpler and dumbed it down to the point now where when somebody asks me, what do you do? I say, I help lawyers get new clients. And that's just short, sweet. It's a one sentence, and it's very simple, very easy to understand. Now, I stop there. If the person is in any way interested, they will ask, well, how do you do that? And then I will go on to tell them. But I don't need to tell them that from the beginning. I don't need to tell them the ins and outs of my trade. I just need to give them a very short way of understanding what it is that I do and who my potential clients are. So I would urge you, if you don't have that, work on it and get yourself a nice simple answer to that. It's going to come in very handy at any sort of networking event. Obviously another basic is follow up. After you go to this event and after you've accumulated some business cards and some acquaintances, I would say one of the first things that you do afterwards is write some notes on the card, anything that you want to remember about this person or individual. It could be something personal, like, he likes to ski, or it could be something professional, like he's looking for new clients with investable assets of $1 million or more. Whatever it is that you have fresh in your mind before you forget it the next day, write it down on their card. And then in the week that follows, send a personal handwritten note, a follow-up to all of those people and say something very simple. Gee, it was awful nice meeting you. We should have lunch sometime, whatever it is. Sign it, put your business card in it, send it off. I guarantee that if you do that consistently, you're going to make an awful lot of very valuable contents. But I want to tell you really the big secret about networking, and it's an incredibly valuable secret. So I'm about to tell you something that's going to be worth a lot to you in the years ahead. When people go into a typical networking situation, most of them are very unsure of themselves for this reason. They are there at the networking event to get business, to get something for themselves. But they know that it's certainly not going to be a good use of their time or an effective sales strategy for them to act like they're trying to sell something or act like they're trying to get something from the other person. And as a consequence, you have a lot of people at this event who are pretending that they're not there to get business, but they're actually there to get business. And that leads to a very uncomfortable position, a very uncomfortable mindset, I think, where you go into a situation sort of looking for prospects and yet trying to act like you're not looking for prospects. And what I want you to do is I want you to change your whole mindset and your whole attitude, and I want you to network like the Godfather. What do I mean by that? Well, I use that, I've got a couple of props here. You recognize this guy, the Godfather, from the movie, and here's the book. Okay, let me tell you what I mean by that. The Godfather, here's a description from the book of his modus operandi, how he went about his business. It says, Don Vito Corleone was a man to whom everybody came for help, and never were they disappointed. He made no empty promises, nor the craven excuse that his hands were tied by more powerful forces in the world than himself. It was not necessary that he be your friend. It was not even important that you had no means with which to repay him. One thing was required, that you yourself proclaim your friendship. And then, no matter how poor or powerless the supplicant, Don Corleone would take that man's troubles to his heart, and he would let nothing stand in the way to a solution of that man's woe. His reward? Friendship, the respectful title of Don, and sometimes the more affectionate salutation of Godfather. And perhaps, to show respect only, never for profit, some humble gift. It was understood it was mere good manners to proclaim that you were in his debt and that he had the right to call upon you at any time to redeem your debt by some small service. Okay, so the Godfather obviously is using his talent for networking to nefarious ends. And I'm not suggesting that you become a gangster or a criminal. What I am suggesting here is that you go into any networking opportunity with the goal of finding people for whom you can do something. Some small service, some favor, something like that. And that you accumulate these favors in a sort of bank that you've got going. So don't go in looking for what can I get, but go in looking for what can I give. There is a principle that I've discussed in earlier lessons in this series called the principle of reciprocity. It's a principle of human psychology. And that principle means that, and states that, when I do something for you, give you a gift of any kind, you feel obligated to me. In some way you feel you have to pay it back, even if it's only in goodwill. And it's also my experience, not to get too new agey about it, but it's also my experience that what goes around comes around. And there is a kind of karma out there that says that, whatever good deeds you do are going to come back to you manyfold. They may not come back to you from that specific person, but they're definitely going to come back to you. So if you go into this networking situation with the goal of finding people for whom you can do favors, you're going to start to accumulate relationships. Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach, said at one point, I will ask no value from another person until I have first provided value to that person myself. So you want to look for a situation where you can do the first favor, where you can do the first service. And that there is no better way to start a relationship. I have a client in San Diego. His name is Joe Strazzeri of the law firm of Strazzeri Mancini. And in this case, his ethnicity is not the reason I'm using him as an example. I'm using him as an example because he's so good at what he does. But when I told him that I was going to give this class and that I was going to cite the Godfather as an example, I told him I was going to use him, and he had a pretty good laugh about it, but he also knew that I had an insight into how he operated. He operates in the world of relationships and favors, and he is always looking for an opportunity to do something for somebody else, whoever that might be. And he has accumulated a bank of goodwill, of debt, of all kinds of relationships that have made him a real marketing machine in San Diego. So it may sound, because I'm using The Godfather as an example, a bit manipulative and stuff like that, but what you're really looking for is somebody to serve, somebody to give a gift to. And if you go into this networking opportunity with that in mind, it's going to transform your whole attitude, and it's going to transform the way that you relate to other people. And you're going to do something that I think is the single most important thing, and that is you're going to listen. All right, so when you're in a networking event, you want to listen to the other people, listen to what they do, have some insight as to what they're looking for, what they're trying to achieve, what could best help them. Look for an opportunity to do something for them, to help them to get to where you're going. And I guarantee that you're going to enjoy that networking event so much more, and you're going to start to accumulate favors, and you're going to start to accumulate relationships with people. And just think how, that local bank trust officer that you want business from, just think how his relationship with you is going to be changed if you start out by doing something for him. And you don't have to announce it, you don't have to say that you're doing it, you don't have to draw attention to it. Just find something that you can do for that person that will be helpful to them, and then do it. That is the real secret of networking. That's what's going to make you effective, that's what's going to make your networking opportunities great, and that's what's going to help you build your business. So, a book I recommend to you on networking tips is called Some Assembly Required by Tom Singer, T-H-O-M on the Tom Singer. And you can go to tomsinger.com, or you can just get that book from Amazon. It's a very good book on the general stuff about networking some of which I was telling you, some of the basic principles, how to conduct yourself, how to make the most of it. But the real secret is the one I told you, and that is to network like the Godfather, accumulate services that you can do for other people, good deeds that you can do for other people, and put those in the bank. If only in your karmic bank, put them in the bank. And I promise you, you'll grow your business and you'll grow your relationships faster than you can believe. So thanks very much for attending today's class. It's short but sweet, and it's going to be very, very valuable for you. Thanks.